And I will try to give my talk. Yeah, I'm in mathematics and statistics, so I will try to give my talk as accessible as possible. And yeah, anyways, so you'll see, I will try to do fetal ECG morphology and from few channels. And technically, ideally, maybe long time. Okay, so I believe most of you do not know me. So this is me, and I got my medical degree before I came to mathematics, and then I am in Duke. You can just call me Hau. Okay, some of my friends call me Hau because Hau-tieng is difficult to pronounce, I believe. Yeah, so just Hau. Okay, Hau. Okay, I will be happy to answer Hau. Okay, so fetal ECG, I think I don't need to mention too much. All of you know much more than me. So, but you know what we want, several goals, right? You want to get fetal heart rate, and then you can understand the heart variability of the fetus, to understand the health, and even to get fetal ECG, and to try to get electrophysiological information, if possible. But what is the challenge here? If you look at the original signal, which Rick has shown a lot, then you will see that how come out the signal is kind of crazy. In particular, if I tell you there is only 1 or 2 channels for some specific purposes, you may only have 1 or 2 channels. Not like you have a 4, 8, even 10. Then you may have to handle the following issue. First, the signal. You can see the signal you have interest, or the signal you don't have interest. They all have a broad spectrum. Okay, and the frequency, amplitude, morphology all change from time to time. Okay, we know the nonlinear relationship in between R interval and QT interval. So you know that the morphology of the ECG heartbeat is not fixed from time to time. And even you know if there's arrhythmia, then what will happen? Well, there's a lot of unknowns and the challenges. So here I want to present one recent work with several physicians back in Duke pediatric. They are pediatric cardiologists, and this guy is my PhD student in mathematics, and he's also a physician, and he quitted as well to come to mathematics. So it was luckily accepted 2-3 weeks ago. So it's morphology, and you know there's a new tool we call optimal shrinkage. It's not really that new in mathematics, but it's kind of maybe new in the society. And we only use 2 channels, maximum 2 channels, and we can even get results from 1 channel. Okay, so I'll briefly tell you the model, and this model will give you an intuition of what we are doing and why we found it important. First, look at the signal. You look at it, maybe not daily nowadays, you look at CTG, but I believe someday, for example, with Rick's and many Philips, GE's efforts, someday you will read this kind of signal every day. You see, what are they? It's kind of, okay, a lot of challenges I have mentioned. So last time, 2 years ago, I spent 30 minutes here, not here, but in Oxford, talking about several other parts, and today I will talk about this time varying oscillatory pattern, and hopefully to give you a better idea of what's going on. Okay, so let's come back to the very basic model. This is an ECG signal, and we all know how to read it. And this signal looks a bit weird, isn't it? On the left-hand side, looks okay, but on the right-hand side, ST elevation. So this is the ECG signal having some kind of MI attack. Okay, so no matter what, it doesn't matter, right? You just know this is an ECG signal. And you know that, hey, the oscillations changes from time to time. Although it changes from time to time, but it doesn't go crazy. It does not go crazy. Our heart is our heart. It doesn't really, well, we'll jump like a random noise sometimes. Well, and this is noise. So, no. So it has some kind of variation, but it's not totally random. First fact. Second, technically, we will be able to somehow parameterize it by using just few parameters. Ideally, technically. Okay, so what we did was, how about the following? We have several oscillations here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, blah, blah. So for every bit, I will view it as a point in some high-dimensional geometric structure, which we call manifold. Okay, just imagine like you learn linear regression, right? In linear regression, you have some predictor, some parameter, and this parameter is in one-dimensional space. Now just imagine that I replace this one-dimensional space by something curvy in high-dimensional space. Okay, to capture nonlinearity. That's called manifold. Okay, so here in this model, you just forget time. You do not acknowledge the temporal relationship in bit to bit, in between bit to bit. Okay, but however, time can give you some very important information which I do not discuss today. But for our purpose, this picture is good enough. So you will see that for those bits without any myocardial infarction attack, they are kind of clustered on the left-hand side. But if you have some kind of MI, it is clustered on the right-hand side. So you can see some kind of clustering to describe the distribution or the morphology or the variability from bit to bit. So here is a more thoughtful picture of the model. So this is the ECG signal. As I told you, there will be some kind of variability in between the ECG bits. But there are actually two hearts here. One is maternal, one is fetus. So let's say for the maternal bit, maternal cycle, it just looks like this, guys. And how about the fetal ECG? In this model, we will say fetal ECG is actually noise. It's actually noise. It is not what we want. It is something noise to the maternal ECG. And suppose we can view it in this way and try to denoise, that is, remove the fetal ECG from the maternal ECG and recover the maternal ECG, then somehow we are able to recover the fetal ECG. So that is the basic principle. So you see, those maternal ECG cycles, they are clean. However, they are contaminated by fetal ECG, those small spikes. They behave like noise. Okay, so that is the model. The algorithm is called single channel blind source separation. So you can imagine that, if you have 10 channels, then you can run ICA, and you can combine several various techniques. But now how about what can you do if you only have one channel or even two channels? Then ICA, this kind of technique, cannot really help you too much. And there have been many works in traditionally in this direction. And we will briefly talk about show the results later for comparison. But now we want to discuss and introduce the algorithm. And this is the proposed algorithm. There are several steps. And for sure, I will not go into details for everything, including mathematical details or even theory or proof. No, that's not what I will do here. But there are technically two parts. The first part is a bit extraction. The second part is optimal shrinkage and do the separation. And D-shape, this kind of D-shape is the technique we applied to do bit extraction, but that is not what I will discuss today. I will focus on this optimal shrinkage. I will try to make it as brief as possible in the next three slides. So the next three slides, there will be one slide which will contain some mathematical equations, which I apologize because I really don't know how to kind of make it animation. But I hope it can do you a good job if you know some linear algebra. So what you do is you have several bits, okay, and you just pour all those bits into a big matrix called X. Okay, so you have P and N. P means the bits of each cycle. N is the number of bits, and you can run singular value decomposition. Singular value decomposition. If you ever work on this spatial temporal model, if you ever work on high-dimensional machine learning model, then this is something maybe look familiar to you. So you run some singular value decomposition. And what is the optimal shrinkage? The technique we want. It can be viewed as a model that you try to denoise the matrix. I give you this data matrix. You try to denoise it. You try to denoise it. And there are several steps which you can ignore. But in particular, I want you to pay attention. What you do here is trying to correct the eigenvalues, or singular values. You try to correct the singular values so that the matrix you get is actually as clean as possible as the matrix that is not contaminated by noise. Let me remind you here what is the important part here. What is noise? As I discussed 2 slides before, noise here is the fetal ECG. Noise here is the fetal ECG. And we want to recover maternal ECG as accurate as possible by removing the fetal ECG. Okay, so there have been several theoretical work in this direction and so on. We apply an old result here. And the new result will give you a better result, but I don't show it today. So this is the picture. So this is the noisy, contaminated maternal ECG, and this is after denoising. So somehow you somehow already remove the fetal ECG or separate the fetal ECG and the maternal ECG. And those are fetal ECG. And what you can do is you design some kind of a new metric to determine who will be your neighbor, who will be very close to you, or what bits, which maternal bits will be similar. There are several technical details which I will ignore, but you can introduce some unsupervised learning techniques in high-dimensional data to further improve the accuracy. And this is the result. What you do is check the second bit, for example. You can find several neighbors. And when I say neighbors, if you take a look for all the neighboring points, you see that their maternal part all looks similar. However, the fetal part does not look similar. And so what you do is you take all of them and run a median. Evaluate the median. And median will remove the noise, that is, remove the fetal ECG, so that you get maternal ECG. And this is called the non-local median. And now I put everything together to get to the fetal ECG. So you get all of them, you run median filter, you patch them together, you get the maternal ECG. And after you do a subtraction, you get the fetal ECG back. And you can repeat this procedure to improve the accuracy or the cleanness of the fetal ECG. Or if you have twins, you can extract the two fetal ECG signals from the twins and so on. And the one simple generalization is the following to two channels. Previously, what I talked about was for single channel. You can carry out the algorithm analysis for only single channel transabdominal maternal ECG. What about if you have two channels? And why do we care about two channels? I mean, the main challenge we found in real data is if you only have one channel, many times, you may not see any possible fetal ECG. I have tried this on those cardiologists, and they saw nothing. Okay, and I hope you believe me. There's really no fetal ECG. It's hard to tell anything. And if you run an algorithm, you just got shit. Okay, it doesn't have anything. So what we consider is, hey, how about if we take this vector cardiogram or the dipole current model of the ECG into account and try to design something smart, maybe. So what you do is you have these two channels, and you view these two channels as projections in two different angles, independent directions. And now you do some linear combinations. And at some point, you will see something magic. That is, if you do this combination with 7 pi over 4. So now you start to see, hey, there's maternal ECG, and there are some small spikes, and they turns out to be the fetal ECG. So what it means is, when you are recording the fetal ECG, maybe the fetal or the dipole current of the fetus is kind of perpendicular to your recording. But if you have two channels, then you can somehow cover most of the possible directions, most of possible information. You have 3 channels, 4 channels, the more the better. But 2 channels, based on our experience, is good enough to recover most of the information we have interest. So we focus on 2 channels. So the algorithm here is you kind of pile on this algorithm by channel selection. You have 2 channels, you do all possible combinations, and then you select the one that gives you the best fetal ECG signal. And what does it mean by the best fetal ECG? You run some signal quality index check. Okay, so for details, you can find everything in the paper. I gave all the details. Okay, so finally, algorithms is done. So no more algorithm. I'll show you some results so that you can see, okay, why do I care? And what is the potential? Here, okay, clinical evaluation. I don't have database resource, so the only thing I count on is the internet. So unfortunately, that's kind of my limitation. So I count on first this CINC 2013 database for the fetal QRS detection performance. The second one is a very new database, non-invasive fetal ECG arrhythmia database. I don't know if my reviewer is sitting here. If yes, thank you very much, because thank you for providing this information. It's very, very helpful. Okay, so first, fetal QRS detection, one channel. Okay, you can see that we compare with many other algorithms, and all those algorithms are coming from this paper, an open source framework as a benchmark. So we have several different algorithms, and the DS means a D-shape, which we changed the traditional peak detection algorithm with our algorithm. If we don't do so, the performance is lower. And as you can see, if we do not run optimal shrinkage, but only singular value decomposition, and this is the traditional approach, which I believe most of you know, then the performance is not as good for single channel. And if you just run PCA, principal component analysis, the best result you can get is 84. And don't forget here, I already replaced the traditional peak detection algorithm by D-shape. Otherwise, there's no hope to achieve that high. But if you combine with the optimal shrinkage, you can see the performance increases quite a bit. And if you have two channels, the result is even better. This is a proposed one. I think this F1 is almost like if you have 4 channels and so on. I also compare with several algorithms. The two main comparisons I did was with this paper, which is my previous paper with Martin, and we have the algorithm called Saver. Another one is the recent paper accepted in Siam Journal, which is a more mathematical theoretical one with the Israel team. As you can see, the proposed one is still the best. And if you replace optimal shrinkage by PCA, the performance is not bad, actually. It's kind of satisfactory, but not as good. And SVD without optimal shrinkage is kind of surprisingly low compared with PCA. So somehow it tells you that you can actually get quite a lot of useful information out of the algorithm, but they're just tables, kind of boring, isn't it? How about some pictures and maybe even something that you can try? Single lead simulation. This is really simulation. And I simulate it as a very challenging example. So what I do is I take MIT DB arrhythmia database to mimic the fetal ECG. I take V2, okay? And then I take ABF, I remember ABF, whatever this direction, for maternal ECG simulation. And this is from PTB database, a normal one. And I combine them, I get an 10 dB Gaussian noise, which is kind of not too bad, but not too good as well. This is a decomposition result, which is difficult to see. So first, the blue one, there is actually a gray one beyond, that is the ground truth, and the blue one is the recover signal. And you can see this kind of difficult to see the difference. And this is the ground truth fetal ECG. This is the recovered fetal ECG. So personally, I won't complain too much because you already can see PQRST everything. And from a real database, there's no arrhythmia, and this is the recovery result. As you can see from your eyes, only from 2 channels we can recover PQRST almost everything. I also have a table, which I don't show here, comparing what can you get for this PR interval, QT interval, and R height, R interval, many things which you can compare. I'm all in the paper. Okay. And this is the one when a baby has arrhythmia. And this database really comes from this paper. Where it's kind of difficult to see this paper, which is a new paper published in Prenatal Diagnosis. And from that paper, you can see the so-called, you can see what's going on. And so this is the result we recovered just by applying the algorithm. So you see this is a transabdominal maternal ECG. And you can already see there's some kind of missing bits here, but it's hard to say. And you run an algorithm. This is the recovered maternal ECG, and this is the recovered fetal ECG in the very end. So you can somehow recover the block normal P wave and so on. And if the patient has this premature atrial contraction, you can also catch it. For example, this is the signal, and you do the reconstruction here. You see most of them have a very clear P wave, but here the P becomes distorted, so get PSC recovered back, and so on. So if you remember, in the very beginning, I mentioned it would be a real-time business. Yes, like a few months ago, when I sent Natasha this title, I thought I will be able to finish this real-time business, but I really couldn't find any equipment or do anything. So it's just a proposed algorithm, and I don't have any video I plan to prepare for you because I just don't have machine or data, and I get also some other stuffs, so it got totally crazy. But anyways, we have theory code, and we also the simulation looks good, but in the end of the day, we just do not have equipment to test. So this is kind of the proposed algorithm that you can run in real time. And this is an ongoing project. We have several different aspects. Like first, I'm in math and stat, so there are several theoretical perspectives, including this far field, near field structure, which is, again, thanks for the reviewer's recommendation, very interesting direction. And also other random matrix theories, theoretical direction. And then algorithm development, bit detection-free algorithm, which is we are developing right now, and can we apply to multiple channel directly, more structures. And clinical aspect, we don't have data resource. This is a kind of a help, and we need hardware to record, hardware recording resource and help. So several other things. And thank you for your attention, and hopefully, yeah, it can be useful.
No, very entertaining. I enjoyed it. Question. Comment.
Oh, if no, yep.
I was wondering, as far as the number of substitutes that you need to be able to find neighboring.
Right. Yeah. Right now, what we have tried is if as long as you have roughly 60, 70 bits, that is about less than 1 minute recording, then we are able to do a good job. Yeah. So what we do is over 60, even 80 or 1 million, doesn't matter. You select the so-called most similar 20 to 30 bits to run the so-called median. It's kind of optimal shrinkage and median. Then the performance is good enough. And this parameter hasn't been fine-tuned because we do not have any specific machine to fine-tune it. So we do not have any engineering part here yet. So if we have the hardware, we know, oh, that will be the algorithm, the one we want to design for, then we can certainly collect data and optimize all the parameters. Oh, maybe we take 23 bits and run this with some parameters, it will be the optimal, which window? Well, we haven't done this yet. But to answer your question, 60 bits, roughly 1 minute signal is enough for me to start to get everything useful. So you will always have some latency. Yes?
Do I understand that most of your work there involved beat detection first?
Yes, right, exactly.
And then SVD afterwards?
Yes, right, exactly.
Because it's straightforward to do this SVD on the signal itself.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Is that what you're proposing for future work?
Oh, no. So the bit detection has been discussed last time, so I do not discuss the bit detection part here. And as you can see here, before, there is a bit detection accuracy, which we proposed, we compared. And we also compare with what you mentioned. Hey, if you just know the bit location and you do not run optimal shrinkage, you just run SVD, then what will happen? And
no, I mean, don't do beat detection, just run SVD on the raw signals.
Oh yes, that is something we are doing right now. Bit detection free algorithm. Yes, and there is a very important difference if you do the comparison. The difference is traditionally when people say SVD, people apply it to multiple channels, but we only want to apply it to one channel. So there will be the difference. Okay, so when we say we don't detect bits, it means we are only have one channel, we are only having one channel, and we don't do bit detection. And what will happen? Instead of we have multiple channels, we have 10 channels, I can run SPD directly, no problem. It's the spatial temporal analysis, many tools to use. It's good? Good. Yep.
Thank you. Real quickly, the data that you got, since you're getting it from elsewhere, were you able to determine the differences you're going to find in the utility of this approach as a function of gestational age? Because as you heard earlier, it changes dramatically the noise that you're having.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't have this information, unfortunately. So the analysis is totally blind. If I do have that information, it'll be wonderful. But as I mentioned, that's what I need help here. I don't have data resource. I even don't know. And I wrote email to the data owner, and they don't give me a S. So yeah.
Can you tell us how you determine the manifolds in your work?
Okay, the manifold is here. So a very simple idea, if you take a look, is here. That is, think about it. You may have some kind of height caused by breathing, and the width caused by R interval, although there's a nonlinear relationship. And there might be some kind of deformation, like these are VPC, APC, whatever, arrhythmia. So by all this, if you do some simple calculation under some very simple linear approximation, you can show that if I give you a range of amplitude and a range of frequency, then this can be formed by a chart of the manifold. It's a nonlinear, there's a nonlinearity there, which I don't show here because it's kind of too technical. And now, if you have another thing, which is the fetal ECG, then what you get is actually in a high-dimensional space, you have a direct summation structure of two manifolds. Because don't forget, as I mentioned, you have this guy, the fetal ECG, plays the role as noise, and this noise is some kind of cyclic structure, because the fetal ECG can appear anywhere. So in the end of the day, you will get some kind of TN structure over some manifold. Okay. Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, no problem. Thank you very much.
To keep me started. No, perfect. We started a bit late, so we're running a bit late, but that's fine.